Hidden beneath the deserts and mountains of the Middle East lies one of the most complex military rivalries of modern history. It is a conflict fought in the shadows. Through cyber attacks that melt nuclear centrifuges, assassinations on crowded city streets, and proxy armies armed and trained by Tehran to pressure Israel from every direction. But here's where the story takes its first surprising turn. For the first 3 decades of Israel's existence, Iran was not its enemy. It was its closest partner in the Muslim world. That's right. Okay, before the chance of death to Israel echoed through Tehran. Before the missiles and the shadow war and the direct strikes of 2024 and 2025, Iran and Israel were allies. So what happened? How did 2 former friends become the Middle East's deadliest adversaries? And why, after decades of fighting in the shadows, are they now trading blows in the open? In 1948, when Israel declared independence, it found itself surrounded by hostile Arab nations determined to push it into the sea. Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, had a strategy. He called it the periphery doctrine, the idea that Israel should forge alliances with the non-Arab states of the region. And Iran, under the Western-backed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was at the top of that list. I think about the logic here. Iran was a non-Arab, predominantly Shia nation in a region dominated by Sunni Arab nationalism. Both countries shared a common fear, the rise of Arab radicalism led by Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser. Both were firmly in the Western camp during the Cold War. So they built a partnership, and it was deeper than most people realize. Iran supplied Israel with oil at a time when Arab nations refused. In return, Israel helped Iran modernize its agriculture, its military, and here's where it gets fascinating, its intelligence services. Israeli advisors actually trained the Shah's notorious secret police. There's even a story, confirmed by multiple sources, that Israel helped Iran establish its intelligence apparatus in exchange for recognition and access to Iranian oil. By the 1970s, the partnership had reached its peak. The 2 countries were sharing intelligence on Soviet activity, cooperating on military projects, and building infrastructure together. But this is where the situation changes, and what happens next reshapes the entire Middle East. January 1979, the Shah flees Iran. February, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returns from exile to establish the Islamic Republic. And overnight, the rules of the game change completely. Khomeini's new regime had a radically different worldview. It saw the United States as the Great Satan and Israel as the Little Satan, an illegitimate entity occupying Muslim land. Within months, Iran cut all diplomatic ties with Israel. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was shut down and handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization. Iranian citizens were banned from traveling to what the new regime called occupied Palestine. But here's a twist that complicates the narrative. Even after the revolution, pragmatism sometimes won out over ideology. During the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, Iran found itself alone, fighting Saddam Hussein's Iraq, which was armed and supported by the West. And in one of the strangest episodes of this entire conflict, Iran secretly turned to Israel for weapons. It's known as the Iran-Contra affair. Israel, with American approval, facilitated the sale of U.S. arms to its new enemy. Why? Because Israel saw a common enemy in Saddam Hussein. Okay? And because the logic of realpolitik sometimes overrides even the deepest ideological divides. But this secret cooperation was the exception, not the rule. The real battle was just beginning. So here's the problem Iran faced. It had the ideology and the ambition to challenge Israel, but it didn't have the military capability. Iran's conventional forces, after years of revolution and war with Iraq, were no match for Israel's U.S.-equipped military. And direct confrontation was geographically difficult. There's 1,000 miles between them. Stuxnet was the first publicly known cyber attack on industrial machinery. And while neither the U.S. nor Israel officially claimed responsibility, most analysts believe it was a joint operation. But the shadow war wasn't just digital. Between 2010 and 2012, 4 Iranian nuclear scientists were killed in Tehran, car bombings, drive-by shootings. Iran blamed Israel. Israel officially said nothing. Throughout the 2010s, as Syria descended into civil war, Israel launched hundreds of airstrikes against Iranian targets there. Weapons, shipments, bound for Hezbollah. Iranian military positions convoys carrying advanced missiles. It was a campaign in Israel called the War Between the Wars, striking just enough to slow Iran's buildup without triggering a full-scale confrontation. April 2024, Israel strikes Iran's consulate in Damascus, killing senior Iranian commanders. And this time, Iran's response is different. Instead of using proxies, Iran launches more than 300 missiles and drones directly at Israel. Most are intercepted, but the message is clear. The old rules no longer apply. The shadow war has stepped into the light. June 2025, Israel launches Operation Rising Lion, a massive preemptive airstrike targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure and eliminating high-ranking military personnel and scientists. Israel cites intelligence that Iran's nuclear program had reached a point of no return. Iran retaliates. Israel strikes again. And the proxy coordination has become more sophisticated. Hezbollah now times its rocket barrages from Lebanon to coincide with Iranian ballistic missile launches. The goal: overwhelm Israel's multi-layered air defenses. Force the Iron Dome and David's sling and arrow systems to expend their expensive interceptors against waves of cheaper drones and missiles. It's a war of attrition. Iran is betting it can outlast its enemies. That political will in Washington and Jerusalem will erode faster than in Tehran. Here's the math. Each U.S. interceptor missile can cost millions of dollars. Each Iranian Shait drone costs between $20,000 and $35,000. In the first days of Operation Epic Fury, the U.S. reportedly spent close to $2 billion a day. Iran's calculation is brutally simple: make the war too expensive to continue. So where does this leave us? We're watching a conflict that has evolved through 4 distinct phases. First, secret alliance. Second, ideological rupture. Third, shadow war, open confrontation. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Iran's proxy network, built over 40 years and designed to survive decapitation strikes, remains largely intact. The nuclear program, while damaged, represents knowledge that can't be bombed away. And the involvement of global powers, the U.S. backing Israel, Russia and China signaling support for Iran, raises the terrifying possibility of a wider war involving nuclear-armed states. Here's what military strategists are watching now. Can Iran's distributed deterrence actually work? Can a network of proxies, hardened facilities, and economic warfare outlast the most powerful military alliance in history? Or will Israel's strategy of preemptive strikes and technological superiority eventually dismantle the threat? There's no easy answer, but one thing is certain: the old days of fighting in the shadows are over. The Iran-Israel rivalry has entered a new phase. More dangerous, more visible, and more consequential for the entire world. What military topic should we cover next? The evolution of drone warfare? The history of cyber conflict? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more incredible battlefield stories. Thanks for watching.